All right. How'd you guys feel about the case this week?
I thought it was okay.
My first reaction to it was opening it up and seeing that it was 30 pages long. Maybe I wasn't such a fan of that part.
Right.
That's always like one of the first things I do when starting my homework for the week is I look how long the case study for this class is going to be.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too.
Would one of you guys be willing to summarize the case?
It feels like it's been a week since I did this. Hang on.
Well, so basically what I got from it was that the Ritz-Carlton Hotel for the first time was becoming part of a multi facility, I think they called it. And in doing so, they were working with a management group that didn't necessarily see eye to eye with the way that James McBride was planning to carry out the training, their 7-day, I don't remember what it was called, the 7-day training period.
Countdown, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So there's a little friction there, but you know, they had a set way of doing it. They were really very service oriented. It had worked for the Ritz-Carlton for many years, and James McBride was a leader in that and had worked internationally, had lots of experience. What's the other guy's name on the management side?
Collins.
Yeah. To that's what I've got so far.
That's where that's how I kind of saw the facts there. It was an interesting day to read that because I actually got incredibly sick Tuesday, and so I did all my reading the case study and writing my case study report. Kind of took everything I had in me on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you guys familiar with the term like competitive advantage?
No.
No.
What it would be a aspect of a business that a company has over its competitors. For example, maybe a competitive advantage you could look at Walmart is that it has like their prices. The prices would be their competitive advantage over like their other competitors, such as like Target. Target is not trying to compete necessarily with Walmart on prices. They're choosing something else. Say it could be service or the quality, like the look of their store would be a competitive advantage. So, from what we read in this case study, what would you guys imagine that the Ritz-Carlton competitive advantage would be?
I think the one that stands out to me is just their level of service and how personalized it is and how they treat their employees. That's not very common among hotel chains and things like that. That's one big one that stood out to me.
Yeah, like they gave us some statistics in that concerning their employee turnover and how well they treat their employees in that, where they were saying that on a year they only experience, I think it's something like 20% turnover.
Yeah.
When for the average hotel in a given year, it has about 100% turnover.
Yeah.
So if you're going to experience that slow of turnover, you must really be investing in your employees and making them feel really valued. What are some things that made the service part stick out to you?
They basically empowered their employees to do what they needed to do to make sure that their clients were comfortable and taken care of. They also treated their staff that way. I like the description of ladies and gentlemen, not just for the clients, but for the workers as well. There's one quote I really loved that I put into my case write-up. It was something about, because we treat them well, we are also ladies and gentlemen. I'm not phrasing it right, but that basic idea.
Hmm.
Uh, I like. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. I like when he say you have to have passion for people, and that make me think that they can see
Mhm.
the true potential of their employees, and this is why they treat that people well and make them feel comfortable, so they can make a good job.
Mhm.
Hmm. Well, with them, obviously trying to make service their competitive advantage.
Mhm.
What using that? What do you think the Ritz Carlton is trying to sell?
You kind of broke up for me. Can you repeat that?
With them, they're leveraging their competitive advantage of service, and so thinking about some of those like words you use, what is it that they're trying to sell?
Service, I think.
They answered that question in the case study, and I'm trying to find it because I think it's also in my write-up. I think they're trying to sell comfort, an excellent service.
One thing that kind of stuck out to me when they were talking about the bar, they said that people can drink at like their local bar, they can drink at home, but they come here for what, like pleasure? I think that's how they phrased it. And so
Yes.
they were supposed to give them a home away from home, like completely different experience that was enjoyable. I can't remember what they called it, but
Like one of the things that kind of struck me about what they like might be trying to sell is this I don't know, like almost like this feeling of class. And it kind of struck me. There's that quote that you shared, Karen, about referring to everyone as ladies and gentlemen, and it wasn't just the customers and the clients, but it was also the staff. And so I think that they're able to almost like sell that gravitas that is accompanied with that.
Mhm.
I think that's very interesting because they treated them like they wanted them to act.
Mhm.
And I think when we raise the standard for people and we follow through with it, then they will raise the bar and they will reach up to those expectations.
Mhm.
Um, we just had an experience this weekend in looking for furniture. I didn't think that they were kind of sleazy furniture places, but we sure found one. And the salesmen in there were basically kids. They seemed really young. They were just literally like playing around with each other over on the side of the show floor. And I just looked at my husband and I thought, this is not very professional at all. I don't even want to really buy from them. And, I was trying not to be judgmental, but really it was just, they weren't acting like they really should have in a furniture store. They were acting like they were hanging out at a teenage hangout place.
Mhm.
Mhm. It's funny, like when you're younger and you're that age, you think in your head like, gosh, like why does like work have to be so uptight, or why can't they be more relaxed and things like that? And then you get to be older at all, and you go into those stores and you're like, I don't want to be here. Like I don't like how they're acting here. I don't want to spend my money here. And it's easier to see it on our end looking at that why they should act that way, but it's harder on their end to see why they should act that way.
Well, sure. But it kind of came full circle. When we did find something we kind of looked at, the guy just really put pressure on, and we said, no, we're gonna go think about this for a while. And he said, well, if you make a decision today, I'll make you a deal. And just putting that kind of pressure. And I thought, okay, that's enough. Let's go.
Doing like the full blown like car salesman thing on you.
Yes.
Well, what you talked about a second ago about the 7-day countdown, and that them using that as their vehicle for training their new employees. So, what were the steps in the 7-day countdown, and like what were some of your thoughts about how those were working?
One thing that I thought was kind of cool was when they first had everyone come in on the very first day, and they had all of like the managers and the higher ups in the company standing in 2 rows, like giving high fives and shaking people's hands and saying like, thank you, we're so happy you were here. And I think like from day one, they were instilling in their employees the culture of Ritz-Carlton, which I thought was really cool. That's really hard to do in such a short time and with that many people. But they made sure that they focused on the culture first.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true. And that's something that we've obviously not so subtly this whole semester has been focusing so much on, is the importance of culture, and them taking that first day to establish the culture and what it is, and that nobody is allowed to be outside of it no matter where they are in the company, I think is something really important to set the tone.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was just thinking about what you said, Jared, too, about, how the younger generation wants to kind of have more fun at work. And I think the Ritz-Carlton, for all the standards that they were setting, they also had those moments where they were playing, We Are the Champions, and they played some fun music so I think to set everybody at ease and to let them know this is going to be a great place to work, something that anybody could identify with.
Mm-hmm.
And still they kept their standards. And it makes me think of, like, with conference coming up, it makes me think of the general authorities. They always meet a standard. It doesn't mean that we can't laugh when they're giving a talk, or that they're not real people, but they always set a certain standard when they present and when they do anything that they do.
Absolutely. So then, like, some of that rah stuff, first day, and then the second day was the departmental vision sessions. So, Marvin, what kind of went on with that day?
What you say? I'm sorry.
What went on with the second day in the 7-day countdown?
Oh, the same. Okay. Yeah, the second day. They say that employees went to their own departments.
Mm-hmm.
And they was.
I think I would put a trace on that.
Like when they're on a
If you're on the case, it's page 13, you guys. I just finally found it.
Okay.
However, I think we still tell them, right?
It was when they did more of their smaller team building stuff. Like the first day they did their big company-wide team building things. Then on the second day they became more familiar with the people that they were going to be working with specifically. And I like just like one of the lines where it talks about they learned how they could function together as an effective unit. And I think that just does a really good job of putting very concisely what what we're trying to do when we go to actual work training sessions. It's not always necessarily learning what the job is, but it's also learning how to work to do that job the best with those around us.
Right.
And then what was the rest of the week kind of taken up with?
That's when they receive their skills training in their different areas.
Yeah.
What are you guys' opinions on doing that over those last 5 days of the 7-day countdown? What might be some strengths and weaknesses of that?
Well, for me, I just kind of put myself in their shoes a little bit, and I was like, man, if I was getting trained for this new job that was expecting a lot of me, that the standards were really high, and you only had 5 days to really get trained, that would be kind of stressful. So in a sense, I think that stress is both a pro and a con, like having the crunch time. Because I think people are more likely to really pay attention to try and get it right the first time because they know this is crunch time. Whereas at the same time, that's also a negative thing.
Mm-hmm. Why would you think crunch might be a positive thing?
Like I said, just because it kind of pushes people a little bit. Like I'm not motivated to, well, not in all cases, but for the most part, I'm not motivated to do a project at work or to finish homework unless I have a deadline. And so this was, in a sense, their deadline to learn their skills that they needed to learn.
That's an excellent point, because I mean, we all we're all working at the last second on some project and thinking in our heads, I'll never do this again. Next time I'm going to get that start on it early. And we're not always, I'm sure, I'll speak for myself. I know that I'm not always as great at that commitment as I would like to be.
You can speak for all of us.
Yeah, no, really.
Karen, what do you think are some of the pros and cons of?
I was thinking along the same lines as Natalie. Really, I think the push was a positive. Also, I think those things would be fresh in their memories as they started into the job. I also think that I think it puts pressure on them and maybe even weeds out some of those people, because they did say they compensate for the people that they know they would lose at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I've read other business tactics where people actually pay people to quit. Like if they can't make it through their orientation training, then they're like, please leave. We don't want you here, and we'll give you a bonus if you'll stop wasting our time and leave. And I think in a way they're doing that. I think they're saying, we really need them to be able to perform at this level, and this is going to weed out those who can't. I think it's also stressful, not only stressful, but are they really going to get everything they need to know in their heads that quickly? But I think that's one of the reasons why they start at 50% capacity. Mm-hmm. I also argued that, one more thing, is that they've done this so many times that this was a tried and true practice for this company. So, McBride already knew that this worked for them.
Okay.
And that's not to say that he can't try new things, but he knows that this has worked.
Marvin, what do you think are some strengths and some weaknesses about this plan?
I think, like you guys, that stressful is the word to describe, because they need to learn a lot of stuff. Like he said that they need to learn how to document the guest incidents and learn all the process. I think that was tough to learn in a week, on 5 days. But at the same time, I think it's good for them push the people in that way, for as saying at the beginning, they really want to see the true potential of that employee.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I mean, they'll get a much quicker view at how much some of these employees might be worth investing in.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
There's another thing I considered with that, how quick they trained was where they were doing it was in Washington, D.C. So my first thought was, wow, they need to get it right because of the dignitaries that they would be serving there in that particular place. And if they're going to try something new, maybe they should do it somewhere else, or maybe they should extend the training because of the kind of people they'd be serving there that would take their reputation nationally, or internationally. But then I thought, if they do a great job as they had in the past, that too would carry internationally. They would be renowned for their service as they are.
mm-hmm. Well, I don't know, kind of one thought that I had about the 7-day countdown is they wait to start their training until 7 days before the opening. So it's not necessarily their training is constrained because of when they're planning to open, but that they make a conscious decision to start the training at that point. The main conflict in the case seemed to be between McBride, who understands how Ritz-Carlton does things, and Collins, who is an outsider coming in and having some reservations about that. Thinking back on this case, where do you guys come down on Hyde versus Collins argument, and why do you kind of feel that way?
So just to clarify, you're asking, I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
Sorry, I was probably too wordy right there. Do you feel you side with McBride of doing things the way things have always been done, or do you agree with Collins when he speaks about extending the training period?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
No, I really changed my mind the more I read this case. At first, I thought Collins was really coming down on McBride, and I do think he did. And he wasn't appreciating the experience that he had and the knowledge he had and the way that things are being done. But then I started thinking, well, maybe people do get kind of set in their ways and they're not thinking outside the box. And maybe there are other ways that could prove better than what is traditionally done. So I don't think it's a bad idea to try something new. I think you've got to be careful when and where you do that. So I kind of suggested in my conclusion, a compromise. I think that the Ritz should continue doing the things that they do. That's effective. It's been working for them. But and by starting the hotel at 50%, I don't care how long the training is. I thought that was a great idea because no matter how much training they get, when they actually do it in real life, it's going to take longer. But I thought maybe if they did extend their training by, a few days, another week, maybe they could get to that 80% capacity faster. So my conclusion was really a compromise of the two.
If they extended it, how long do you think that they should extend it?
Well, see, I think I basically feel like it's working for them. What they've been doing is working for them. So I just thought maybe try a 10 to 14 day extension and see, make it, instead of 7 days, make it 10 to 14 days and see how that went for them and see if that got them to capacity a little bit faster.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Marvin, what do you think?
Well, I think the 7-day countdown, I think is a good process to training people in the faster way. and I think that Ritz-Carlton is doing well because they achieve success. But at the same time, McBride, I think he can make an opinion of how to training the employees just for the money they invest in the hotel. But I think they have more knowledge or more experience in the in in the proper selling properties like houses. And I think that Collins had more experience in the hotel industry. So I I recommend in my paper that they continue to doing the 7-day countdown because they cut the budget in half and they are achieving success with that process.
Well, with the 7-day countdown, obviously some of their training is going to continue past opening, and that's why they open only at about 50% occupancy instead of their higher goals. So let me ask you, in that case, do you think that it's right that Ritz-Carlton conducts some of their training and learning of their employees at the expense of the customers? Do you think that doing on-the-job training for them in this case after the hotel opens, does it have a negative impact on the customers, or do you think that it's right for it to have a negative impact on the customers?
No, I don't think it's not right to have negative impact on the customers.
So I'm just trying to challenge everyone with some questions, some follow-up questions on their ideas. But by doing the 7-day countdown, and with that, inherently part of the training is going to continue after the hotel opens. Wouldn't that be what happens? Is that some of the training is able to have a negative impact on the customer experience? Or does that idea change how you feel at all?
I think that can happen anyway. They've brought qualified trainers from other hotels to train and help them get started. And I think whatever you open, whenever you open it, there's going to be a situation that you weren't trained for.
Mm-hmm.
And should the paying customer have to deal with that? Yeah, ideally not. They shouldn't have to do that. But that's kind of how it is. I think they get trained well enough that they're not, not. I think they are providing good enough service, and I think that's what is expected of them right up front. I do have a question though. Did you guys get anything from the case about how that worked for them? I mean, we know that it was affected, but I'm kind of curious about, did they get continual training for a while after that? I don't remember reading that would happen.
Let me look, see if I can find it real quick. I thought that there was something about that, but I might have just been
See, I don't know if the trainers stay and help open the hotel. I don't remember that part.
I can't find anything. I might just filled that conjecture in myself as I was reading, or just assumed it.
You would think that they would have to.
Yeah.
Do something, get some help to open the hotel. I found myself asking a couple of questions like that I just wasn't sure that we had enough information on.
I can't find anything about that because like I'm looking here towards the end of the 7-day countdown, and it talks about, it's important that we set the standards immediately. They have to do their jobs perfectly, even if it takes them longer. Productivity will increase as they get more and more comfortable. Flawless execution is the goal, and then speed will come. This practice also to allow to offset the inevitable line turnover that we experience shortly after opening. But that doesn't look like much past that. Natalie, what was your opinion about choosing between the two?
I kind of looked at it similarly to Karen, but I wasn't even thinking about how you said, Karen, that if people kind of get set in their ways, that sometimes they lose sight of new opportunities. I was just thinking it would be a good idea where Millennium Partners is such a big partner and is so influential. I thought it would be really important for them to maintain their relationships with them. And so that's kind of how I went at it. And so I came up with a compromise, because then also my accounting brain kicked in, and I was like, well, if you employ the new hires for an additional week, you're incurring all that cost without having anyone in the hotel, which of course you'll earn the cost back later, but you'll earn the money back later. But for me, it just seemed a little bit too much. So I was like, I just compromised with about a 10-day, even though it's only 3 days. I was like, maybe that would appease Collins enough without hurting both the training and the bottom line, I guess.
I think
So
3 days could be more. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. Go ahead, Karen.
I just think 3 days could be more significant than we were thinking, because they really only had 5 days of training in their position. So 3 days is another more than 50% of training.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of what I was thinking, because really there's only so much training that you can get too, and then you need to put it into practice. And so that's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, yeah, they could get more one-on-one training. They could get more time to ask questions. And then sometimes you just learn best by being thrown in the deep end of the pool.
The way I kind of thought about this and challenged me if you guys disagree, but like I was completely with Collins on this. I thought that 7 days was insane. And a big reason I did was it talks about earlier about what the number one perishable good in a hotel is it's not like food and all this other stuff. It's time and space. So like, an apple that I think the example I gave is an apple that doesn't sell one day, they can sell it the next day. A night lost in the hotel is gone forever. They can't sell it the next day.
Right.
And so in my head, as I'm reading this, I think that it's a serious disservice to their hotel that they want to open at 50% occupancy. I think that that's low. They're saying that half of what they're producing, or half of what they've produced initially. So I thought that they should at least double the training time, so they can open up at high of an occupancy as possible, so that they can open up closer to 80% and then move past that, rather than opening at 50% with the goal of moving to 80%. And I think that higher occupancy rate will cover the additional training costs, and I think that it will just bring faster profitability to the hotel itself. Like when they shared that example about the most perishable item that a hotel has, that was the thing that stuck with me the entire rest of the case. That's what I just kept thinking about. I think I mentioned it like twice in my case write-up.
Yeah.
Just because it was such a standout thing to me.
Very true. I do remember reading that too and feeling like that was really incredible to think the example that they gave about the Apple and then the lost revenue on a room. So that is significant. That's probably one of the things we really need to take into consideration with this case for sure. So did you say extending it by double? So a 14-day training?
I think it would be a 12-day training, just doubling the 5 days of training. And maybe that won't have the massive effect that I want it to have, but I think that it would prepare the employees to be open open with a higher occupancy than what they are initially planning at 50%. They can do things like just I don't know, like spend that time doing like speed drills and things like that with what they're going to be doing every single day. And there's still going to be stuff that pops out that they're not expecting, things that you can't predict because that happens in every job. But if I were running a hotel, like I would want it to be running at its peak as quickly as possible. Because you're not making money off of empty rooms.
Do you think this is the hotel that they should try those changes with?
I think that since they're partnering with Millennium Partners, that they have already outside voices and people who have other experiences, I think that would make this one a prime choice to try this with, because then they just wouldn't be taking just the Ritz-Carlton experience, but they would also be taking the other company's experience as well.
Good point.
What principles do you guys think you can take from this case and apply in your lives? Or in the future even?
In this case, I learned, they say that they are selling service to other people, right? They want to service people, and they want to feel people, they want people feel happy to be in the hotel. So I was thinking when I was driving to home today, what I need to do to be able to sell service. And I think that I need to be humble or be able to serve other people. So I think I can learn from this case to be humble, to be ready to service others and give a high level of service, not just do it because it's good to do it, do it because I want to do it from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah. That's an excellent point about where some of our motivation and things like that can come from for it. What about you, Natalie?
My main takeaways. I don't know. I think it's really cool how they treated their employees, especially in such a fast-paced industry that often has really crappy hours and things like that. The fact that they had such a low turnover rate was really impressive to me. When I was younger, my dad, money got a little tight, and so my dad had to start working the night shift at a hotel in our town, and it was awful, and he really didn't stick with it very long. He stuck with it enough until our financial situation changed, but it was really impressive to me how they treated their employees. And so I was just thinking, in future jobs, I want to find places that treat me like that. And if I'm ever able to manage or own my own business of some kind, I want to make sure that my employees feel valued as well. That was my biggest thing.
Thank you. Now, Karen, what were you able to take away from this?
Probably the idea that they treated their employees the way they wanted the employees to treat their clients. That was just a big standout to me. A couple of the quotes in there just really made me pay attention. And that I think people really will. I think in another case we did, I think it was Noodles and Company, the owner really put a lot of confidence in the young people. And he said, you think that young people don't want to work anymore, that they don't care, but they do. And I think we see this in the Ritz case too. I think they were challenged at one point. McBride says, we will give excellent service and we will stick our landings or something like that. And so he was telling these people on their first day of training that the expectations were high, but that they could do it. So not only did they have high expectations, but they also instilled in them a lot of confidence to be able to reach those standards.
Mm-hmm. I think some of my biggest takeaways was a lot of it concerning the 7-day countdown. And it's kind of twofold, where just because something is the way it's always been done doesn't make it right, but also just because it's the way it's always been done doesn't make it wrong either. So just for me to be a reminder for myself to be open to evaluating processes and stuff like that, so that I don't just discount something or confirm something just because it's tradition or something like that.
Mm.
Well, guys, do you guys have any other closing thoughts or anything like that? Well, in that case, I thank you guys for your participation this evening. I think it's been a good meeting, and I like you guys, but I'm excited that we only have one more group meeting.
I know. So I guess I'll be running that one next week.
Yeah. So it's nothing personal. It's just I'm excited for the semester to be over.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
So, all right. Well, you guys have a.
Thanks, you guys.
Listen for you guys.
And I'll see you guys next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.